Welcome everyone back to Pommy and Us. We're here. We've done a little bit differently this week. So if you're new around here, hit the like, hit the subscribe. We've got so many lives going on. We've got members lives, we've got teams, we've got selection panel, we've got Friday show with Faz. That will be back this week because we've been mental with work. And we're doing a preview with the teams, which is really exciting for us. Usually it's all speculation and conjecture. So if you're new around here, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe. If you want to become a member of the channel, we're churning them out as well. We do giveaways. Libo Junior won this month. So care package is on the way to him. We've also got a big game this week. So we're against the Doggies. So without any further ado, hit that intro and get straight into it. So the Bulldogs then, we love playing the Bulldogs. They are a team that we do seem to match up against. We've got them at Marvel Stadium, 7:30 on Saturday, the 13th. A very dubious time to play them. Obviously, we beat them last time, 102-90. But, you know, we've always matched up kind of well against them, even if you go right back to our weekdays in 2018, we've always been around 20 points. There was that horrible 2019 game, but aside from that, these games have been good wins for Carlton, or very closely fought encounters. So this is a game that's got some real positive vibes, particularly at the Marvel for the Blues. And you've got to look at the Doggies in this way. They are an absolute clearance powerhouse this year. They are the third hardest side to score against this year. But their clearance and stoppage, partly because of Tim English, has been supreme this year. But they're a side that hemorrhages marks around the ground. They're one of the sides that has the most one of the most enforced errors. They're third for that stat. So they've been susceptible to their pressure as well. 5-3 this year. When they've lost as well, it is quite interesting to note that it has been really poor. And when you look at their tackles as well, 16 for tackle differential, they're a team that this year that is probably kind of like Carlton without the publicity, in the terms of that they've been hot and cold as well. And this is a game here where both sides are really looking for a character building win. We're already at that very early stage of the season. It's round 9. But this game here could really catapult both sides into the next area, into the next stratosphere, and really give them momentum, particularly with Carlton's run coming home. It's going to be really tough until the bye. So there's a couple of banana skin games in there as well that you don't really want to play. But there's some rivalry games. We've got Pies and Essendon, and we've got this one as well. These are the games that the boys need to get some momentum going into that bye. They don't want to... They want to flip last year. Jobby, they want to really come home with a wet sail. So it's going to be an interesting one and a real tough matchup because the Doggies, we know how good they are. So that is a big, big question. So let's get straight in to looking at some of these players. And the return of Jones, The return of Liam Jones. Everyone's probably... He's a likable guy, isn't he? Let's be honest. You can't not like Liam Jones. And let's look at him this year. It's very interesting when you look at, I think, the Bulldogs. You've got to look at them. And one of the hardest teams to score against. And their defense is really built on just rigid monotony. Do you know what I mean? It's rigid monotony is the way I describe it. It's not something that you look at and you go, oh, wow, look at that backline. You kind of look at their backline and go, Jesus, it holds up, is the way. And he kind of suits the bill, I think, when you look at Mr. Jones. He's one of them players that really gets it in. Now, this side here, though, incidentally, even though they're one of the hardest sides to score against, they're one of the few sides with over 100 points scored against them from D50. They transition defense is poor, and it's interesting because Liam Jones was part of that. But let's look at his numbers. He's rated very good for one-on-ones. Average for spoils, average for marks. Intercept marks, very good. Score launch is 0.8. They're not a side that really builds from the back, which might surprise some people, but that's not their bread and butter per se. And this is going to be really a big area for Carlton, because if this guy gets about, as we know, he loves to take the game on. He can be a bit of a problem, but we've also got to look at it this way, that this is an area here we know that if you can isolate him, these boys have played against Liam Jones many a time. Harry and Charlie have literally lived and breathed Liam Jones. So they will be well understanding of what to beat him and not to. But that also goes for him. He understands, how their leading patterns work and how to attack. So this is a really interesting matchup, because if this guy gets them intercept marks going and starts getting into that midfield, that organ grinder stuff could be an issue for Carlton. So this is one to watch here, because Liam Jones, I think people forget about him a little bit in that back line. But if Keith and Dale and Co can really lock down, and they often swing one of their smaller players on one of the talls, particularly one like Charlie who floats, and Harry, they don't mind giving up them marks outside, and they back their system in D50. So it's something to watch out for. When they play players like Tex Walker and stuff who go real high up the ground, they don't really mind bringing a smaller player onto him and maybe seeding the mark for their rigidness in the back line. So something to look out for there. Bon on top, arguably the best player in the comp at the moment on form. He is sensational. Sensational. Definitely the best mid in form, and he's a world apart. He's a world apart, and he's in sensational form. It's going to be an interesting battle, this, because this is a real concern when you're looking in the clearances. 15.3 elite contested possessions, 8.9 ground ball gets, elite. Tackle 7.3 elite. 73.4 disposal efficiency, very good. 25 pressure acts. Everything that happens in this game will go through this gentleman. This guy here, Marcus Bontempelli, one of the top players as well in the comp this year for goal assists. He's one of the top. He's the number one clearance player. He's the second best stoppage clearance, the third best tackler, top 20 for goal assists, like we say, in score involvement. This guy is literally everything to the Doggies, and he's in sensational form. And this is going to be someone that you've got to look for here. And he's always going to find a way to find the ball. He's canny like Cripps. He's always going to do that. So this is going to be something that it's going to be really interesting, how them big loggerheads, the juggernaut of Bont versus the juggernaut of Cripps. It's going to be a really interesting matchup. And this guy here, if he starts getting a lot of it, albeit his mate, Adam Treloar, is out for this game, who has himself been very, very solid this year. He's their leading disposal getter, which is going to be a change-up role for Jackson McRae, because they played him a little bit more forward. It's going to be a really interesting battle, and one that we can't wait. Now, we talked about Mac Footscray, old McRae. Let's have a look at him. It's interesting because we're going to talk about the guy I think will negate him, but very good across the board for Jackson McRae. This guy here, he just goes about his work very well. Now, as we said, he's been played a little bit more forward of the ball, but still top 15 for effective disposals, 11th for inside 50s. This guy here does his football, and they've got him a lot more further away from inside the football. Even though he's got very good there, he's really starting to get away from the football and being more of a conduit in this evolution of Beveridge's game. 8.3 ground ball gets, very good. Tackles, disposal efficiency, very good. Pressure acts, a real metronome. And he's probably going to get a lot more of the ball and a bit more inside time, particularly with Treloar out. A real danger there, because he's like just the metronome of their midfield. Naunton Flaunton, this kid here looks like a 1970s tennis star. Unfortunately, doesn't play like it. He is a very good forward, and one that is really capable of the one-on-one that they like to play. They like to isolate Norton as deep as possible, but then they're also not reluctant to throw in there and switch in with Ugur Koken. But he's really started to link up well with Ugur Koken, and he's usually their deepest player, particularly from the GPS data standpoint. 3.9 shots at goal, 6.3 score involvements, all very good. 1.8 contested possessions, 1.3 marks on the lead. This kid here can play football, and he's going to be one that you'd imagine Wheaterin will get this guy. And top 10 for goals, top 13 for score assists, just outside the top 10 for contested marks. A very, very accomplished footballer, and a footballer that's really coming into the go time at 24 at the end of this season. He's 23, still a pup. He's definitely one of the future of this competition. And it's going to be a great battle here because the Marvel suits your tolls a nice, easy day for him. One to keep an eye on for. And this is going to be one where you're looking for the entries. The one negative I've got about the doggies is they're very Carlton in the way that they float their entries in. So a real opportunity for Mitch McGovern to really look to pinch it, as is Alex Keefe and Liam Jones. But there's going to be opportunities here. And this is it. You've got to make him responsible. You've got to body him up. You've got to make it uncomfortable for him. And it's going to be a great little battle. And it's going to be interesting because I suspect they give it to Wheaters. But this is a matchup you've got to get right. Great surname up next. Bailey Williams, the wingman extraordinaire. And Carlton, when they lose badly, it's about how quickly you can turn it through that corridor from that wide position in the exit. Carlton like to push that exit wide. And the teams that have had success against Carlton's forward press when it's working really well, ignore Brisbane, is when you go out wide. Do you remember we talked about that diagonal switch ball that teams had found the loophole of last year? This is one of the guys that's going to get it. Now, Bailey Williams, elite kicking efficiency. This guy hits targets for Bants. 4.1 score involvements, AFL average. Now, his inside 50s, it's interesting because we talked about how the doggies get the ball in. It's quite interesting because since Ash Hansen's gone, it's not as early entries or late entries. And they're really prudent on who they give it to. And it's quite often ran in. So it's going to be interesting because he's rated poor for inside 50s. And that's because he's genuinely giving it to players or hitting Jamara Ugur Koken just in that 55. So watch out for that down that left-hand side. That is something that Bailey Williams and Ugur Koken have almost got together as if they're like Tweedledum and Tweedledee. 5.3 marks, very like Blake Acres. He's their transitional threat. He's really working hard at both ends. And the average 258.5 metres gain. Bailey Williams, it's not a name that you look for, but look out for him. He'll get a tasty amount of ball. And if he does, Carlton will be looking in trouble. English Delish. We love a little bit of English. Great surname. Arguably the best ruckman in the comp at the moment. He has been sensational this year, let's be honest. And it's quite interesting because for one of the top clearance sides in the comp, this guy here wins hitouts not as much as you suspect. Just below AFL average. They are a lot to advantage, though, the ones that he does do. Elite ground ball gets, though. His follow-up work is second to none. He uses his body really well. He really clears house for players like Trelaw and for Bontempelli to get it out. Score launch is 2.8. 2.5 clearances a game. He's deadly, and his work rate around the ground is pretty impressive as well. He can actually be that extra, and he's kind of floated a little bit more behind the ball, a la Max Gawn. He's really come of age the last 2 years. That bringing in of Stephen Martin has really helped them out, and that's something to watch out for in the long term. Now, for Carlton, how do we hurt them? We know this game plan is built from the back, and one of the key ingredients to building a game out the back is injection infection. Someone has got to get the ball in that back line and move it with a bit of purpose. And Adam Sard is that man. Whether it's by foot or whether it's by a little bit of pace, this guy can make something happen. 81.1% kicking efficiency. Very good. 1.6 spoils a game. 10.9 defensive pressure ups. All AFL average. And what you found with him is that they're really trying to free him up. And they did a really good job this week just gone. Brisbane did, of locking him down. But this is why. Very elite 1.6 score launches and very good meters gained. This guy here can really inject it. And a lot is going to be expected on Mitch McGovern and this gentleman for getting the ball going quickly. Getting that ball, getting out there with a bit of purpose. And Sard will be looking at that forward half and going, you know what, I can take these on. I can do these blokes. They do play. It's apart from Cody Waitman, it isn't an insane fast forward line. And that is something that he can look to exploit, particularly around that side with the medium-sized players. He'll be looking to exploit that when the ball comes in with the deck, especially from the hand on. So look out for that give and go from Sardi. Sardi could hurt him. Now, Mick intercept. He's going to be back on his own. I personally think it's where his best job is. And Mitch McGovern here, like we said, that loopy, floaty ball, bread and butter for him. And this could be Pom's early call, this guy gets 25 touches, should count and win. 81.8% one-on-one win ratio, very elite. 3 spoils a game, 2.6 marks, elite, that are intercept. 81.2% kicking efficiency, 2 score launches, elite. This guy here has got to get his hands on the pill and get that ball going through the middle, short up, hit-ups, looking for it as quickly as possible. Mitch McGovern's going to get the opportunities with their entries. He's going to get it. He's got to take them. And this is a game here where, like I say, if Carlton win, he's got 25 plus touches. He could be having a Tom Stewart-esque game. And this is a really key part of this game. And I can't explain it. Carlton are probably going to lose the clearance battle, right? Because that's what they do. That's their one wood. Their one wood is their weakness. That's where we're looking at Sardi, we're looking at Young, we're looking at Wheaterin, we're looking at Doc, we're looking at Kennedy, should he swing down there, which it looks like he will do, to put pressure and get that ball moving through there. They're going to get a one-on-one, should the Doggies play their best way, in how to execute Voss's game plan, because he's going to be coming in. And particularly from that early 6-6. And that is probably my biggest bugbear with Carlton. We look like the worst 6-6-6 side in the history of the game, because it's hard to believe early entries cause chaos with our system. And it should be the most simplest part, because everyone is manned up. And that is going to be something that the boys have got to look for. So whether that's making a little bit of a change-up and making Blake Acres his first move from the centre bounce to swing behind and protect his defence, that could be a goer, because that's something that they do with Bailey Williams. So something that's going to be a really interesting one to watch. But Mitch McGovern is one that I'm looking at. We talked about foot speed. We talked about longevity, long distance running. Matty Cottrell, one of our own. And I can't wait to see this kid in it. Now, these are his stats from last year, because obviously he hasn't played. I expect these to be probably up by about 20% should he have played in this system this year. But 67.9% kicking efficiency, that's very good. Score involvements, average. Inside 50s, average. Normal marks, 3.9. That is very good. 235.7 metres gained. Carlton play a lot more direct game style. So that would probably be in the very good elite category should he have played. This is a really interesting one, because Carlton have only averaged 69 points when they've played the sides that aren't Pesh, for a want of a better word. And this guy here is so direct in the midfield. He likes to play that high half forward role. In my opinion, he's a huge improvement on Ed Kerner for this system, for what Voss is trying to achieve. And he's going to get his opportunities here, because this is where Carlton will be looking to him to give them something new, to give them some impetus, to give them something that they haven't got. And it's a big game for him. This is a game here, and the Carlton spread will be looking at this guy who's kind of the Swiss Army knife of wingers. And I reckon Cottrell with Blake Acres says that there's going to be a lot of rotation. And that is probably what Carlton need, a little bit of adaptation in game. And it could be an exciting one. And I can't wait. I hope this guy goes head-to-head with Bailey Williams for a bit. Should be a grouse little movement. The wise old Owies. See what I did there? A little bit of owl banter. Matty Owies comes, and again, these numbers here, it's interesting because he was 2. He was rated elite for tackles inside 50. That's a bit of a drop-off. Now, the games he's played, it was the first 3. The third, he took a little bit of a knock, so I'm going to forgive him for that. And he's kind of was just deployed as a real pure out-and-out forward. The tackles inside 50 is probably where a lot of the shit goes wrong for the Blues, to be honest. If we're going to be totally brutal about us, it is something that needs to improve, and he is one that is usually the metronome of it. But personally, I feel when this guy plays, Carlton are a lot better side. Now, Carlton are the 4th best tackle side in the comp, which I think is a really interesting stat that people forget about. Now, the tackles inside 50, we've gone down mid-table where we were so high. Now, would that have changed if he'd played in the last 5 games? I do not know. But I know we need him, because he is one of the few small forwards we have who stays inside 50. Very good, though, this year for shots at goal. AFL average for score involvements, pressure acts, elite for goals. That is a key one there, because that is going on for 40 a year, which is huge if we can get that from the smalls. I would take 25 for a mole, but I think he just makes everyone play better. I think he's one of them players that's like, He's gravy of football world. Everything's better with gravy on it. Lashings of it. Give me some Owies. God save the king. Charlie Curnow. This is a game set up for the king of Marvel Stadium. Very, very good is this guy. Elite. 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 They need to put this guy in the back of money in this country. 6.1 shots a goal, 9 score involvements, 3 contested marks, 1.8 marks in the lead, 3.9 goals. Charlie is an absolute specimen. Absolute specimen of a footballer. And this is his game. This is set up. They're not the most giant forward line. They're also not the most giant back line, right? And you are looking at 194 centimeters of lean blue sex appeal from this guy. This guy is going to be looking for a day out against them. And he's got a great opportunity because even though they're one of the hardest sides to score against, Charlie has got the skills to beat them on the deck and up high. And this is going to be a game here that Carlton are looking for them precise entries and looking for that lead. And they need to separate Harry and Charlie in this game massively. Because if Keith, Dale and Jones only have to defend one zone, which is what's happened the last 2 weeks, particularly against Brisbane, everyone going up for the same ball, it's going to be well easy. But if they can create that separation, particularly isolate Charlie and give him Jonesy, could be a disaster for Jones. It could be a real bad homecoming for him against his Blue Boys. And Charlie's going to be looking to feast. And this is the game. He's hungry. Feed him more. Feed him more. Spread me. Mr. Kennedy's finally back in the side as a full-time footballer, not a sub. And these numbers are sensational when you're bearing in mind that he's pissed about for a couple of these games. He's just been the extra. He's suddenly the kid with sticky tape on his glasses when he come and pick teams. He's back in it. 6.3 contested possessions, very good. Elite AFL average, 2.7 tackles average, very good disposal efficiency, 3.8 and pressure acts, all in the average range. And for someone that's played bit part of football where his numbers have taken a depreciation, shows the importance of Matty Kennedy. And people are complaining he's named on the halfback line. I'll tell you for why. There is a guy that plays half forward that flirts with being a midfielder, flirts with going back forward, and that's Jackson McRae. And we talked about him and Treloar rotate a lot. I wouldn't be surprised to see that this guy get a run with roll. And I think people forget last year he was doing a run with roll a few times. And we all raved about Cripper because he allowed Cripper to do it. Him and Hewitt doing that role. I think this is a big role for him. Him versus McRae. He's had 2 weeks where he's basically been forgotten about. He's been hungry both times he's come on. I back Bam Bam to Shmam McRae. It's going to be a good one. And finally, we finish with Doctor. We've got Sam Docherty, and this is a huge game for Sam Docherty. And I've highlighted some numbers here that are akin to someone who is half and half at the moment. Half Batman, half forward. Carlton needs some directness. And this guy's direct. Very good meters gained, elite pressure acts, elite tackles, elite score involvements. One of Carlton's better score involvement players as well. That's what people forget. One of Carlton's better score involvement players. And this is why he's in the team. This is why he's in the team, because of his ability to get forward. He's fifth, right? He is the third best midfielder for score involvements. And because he's in the midfield, he takes the game on. He gets territory. This system at times needs territory because people overuse the ball. We get that awful, like almost tippy-tappy football. Oh, shall we not? Doc's no nonsense. He gets the ball and he goes, right, there's nothing on. Let's get the ball forward. Get the forwards working. This is going to be a key game here because if you piss about with the ball in the stoppage and the clearance, you're dead against the Doggies. That's their one word. So we need this guy's nous. This guy's IQ for football is really solid. And Sam Docherty is someone we've got to look at. Let's look at the team then. The matchups are fairly, I wouldn't say routine, but they kind of write themselves. But Carlton have chosen to go with Young, Wheater in, Newman, who somehow gets away with the old right hook. We've got Matt Kennedy, Mitch McGovern, and Adam Sard making up the back line. The most boringest centre line ever, because Carlton, I don't think, have changed it for, it feels like a lifetime. Akers, Cripps, and Holland. Half forward, Sammy Walsh, Harry Mackay, Jack Silvani. Full forward, Motters, Curnow, and Durden. The followers being everyone's favourite, Mark Pitternet, George Hewitt, and Sam Doherty, with the bench being Chincotta, Chera, Cottrell, and Matty always, with your sub to come from either Kemp, Fogarty, Ed Curnow, or Zach Fisher. And it's a real exciting proposition. Let me know in the comments who you think sub is. But I've got a feeling that Carlton will go with the sub. I think they'll go with... I've just got a sneaky suspicion that the sub may be Ed Curnow. And it gives them the option, should they need to play a pure tag role, it gives them that option if they want to flirt with the game and change it up. But it's going to be a really interesting one, and I'm looking forward to it. So let me know in the comments what your score predictions are. I am going to say a really ripping game, Carlton by 8. I've got a feeling that they're going to respond and they're going to grind this one out. Let me know what you think in the comments. Look after yourselves. I'll be back tomorrow with my mate Faz as we do Friday Night Live with you. We'll watch a bit of the footy and we'll chat it. We've got some really good topics as well this week as well to talk about. We've got, has anyone really impressed this year in the terms of the AFL? We're talking about what Tasmania may mean for Carlton and other clubs. And more importantly, all your Carlton gossip and chat. We can't wait to see you. Look after yourself. I'll see you tomorrow.
I see her rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad, oh baby's hella bad.